All right, how's everybody doing today? It is the 30th of January, so approaching the end of the month, and we're going to go through a couple of updates on the Winter Warriors and the Chase Home for Children drive that we're doing. So the team has run almost 3,500 miles at this point, so 350 miles per person in the month of January. So we cleared our goal of 3,000, and we're kind of continuing to hammer away. More importantly, we're up to $4,350 in donations, and just to acknowledge some of those donations that have come in the last day or so. Karen Gray left a generous donation. Thank you, Karen. Carol Dennis also left a donation. Thank you, Carol. Kristen Denon, a great person, good friend of mine in Portsmouth. I work with her husband, Chris. She left a donation. Thank you. Erin Prue, one of my closest, I guess, business friends and also a personal friend, really generous person and a great runner. She left a donation. Thank you, Erin. David Ritchie, who is the father of Chris Ritchie, and I always remind Chris that David's a much better runner. So David left a generous donation. Thank you, David. Chelsea Loy, who's one of the Winter Warrior queens in this competition, she left a second donation that put us at the $4,000 mark. James Soldner, who's a great friend of ours and also a great runner in the community, he donated. And Nicole Masson also donated, a good friend of mine from back in my Liberty days. Used to work closely with Nicole. Thank you very much to all of you guys who have donated. Again, we're up to $4,350, so really appreciate everybody's generosity. So in this little interview, I've got my good friend Andy Schachat, who is a member of the running community, and we all know him and love him as kind of the voice of New Hampshire racing. So thank you, Andy, for joining today.
Well, my pleasure always to talk to you about, Matt. You and I always love to talk about running. And let me just say, I agree with you 100%. Chris Ritchie is a fast runner, but he got the genes from his father, David, who's not a kid anymore. And I think if you did that age-graded system, yeah, David would come pretty close to Chris, and if not faster. So, yeah, Chris, we love you. You're one of the fastest runners in the Seacoast, but we know where the genes came from.
All set. All set. They might even argue that David's a nicer guy, even though Chris is okay.
I'm not going to touch that one. I'll let you be the judge on that.
I love Chris. He's a great member of this team. So what have you been up to during this pandemic? I saw you at the 10-miler over in Auburn. That was cool, but not since then. So what's going on?
Well, of course, when the pandemic hit in mid-March, everything shut down for a while, so there was no racing. But in the state of New Hampshire, where I live, we're very fortunate that we were able to get things a little bit under control, more so than some of the other states in New England or around the country. So starting in June, there were some folks who were able to put together some protocol and some guidelines that New Hampshire Governor Sununu and his task force agreed on, that as long as road races put together good social distancing practices, road races could happen in New Hampshire. So a few months ago, again, starting, really in the latter part of 2020, a number of road races started popping up in New Hampshire. So I was very fortunate to get back out there and be a road race announcer again. And as you said, one of those was the New Hampshire 10-miler held at the end of August, of course, on a very rainy day. Thank you very much. But so I've had the opportunity to continue to be a road race announcer, and hopefully that will continue. The schedule is starting to lighten up. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnels with some of these things. I'm getting notifications. Road races are going to start trying to come back, especially in the second half of 2021. So I've been busy, not as busy as I normally would be, in previous years, but busy enough to say that I'm back doing my road racing, which I just absolutely love.
That's terrific. And probably a decent transition there as we talk about the future of racing and stuff. We all got an email about the Boston Marathon recently that we have a date and we have something that, a framework for a safe race maybe. Any comments on that? I don't know if you have insider information. Obviously, don't want you to put you in a tough spot, but
no, I don't. I'm not in with them. They'll let me know how, assuming everything is normal. My race and day assigned with the Boston Marathon would be to start the morning in Hopkinton, doing some racing, doing some announcing out at the start, then drive to the finish. And like I like to call myself the second team, taking over, in the afternoon, about 4 hours into the race, and announcing names until the end. Look, at this point, it's January, and we're all hoping by Columbus Day, which is when they would like to hold the race, that things will be back to normal, because that means allowing 25 to 30,000 people line up in Hopkinton, in whatever capacity they can. It means they're not going to be able to stop people from pouring out onto the street. It could be hundreds of thousands of people. I was talking to some folks. What does it mean for the expo? Because you can't have that. If you wanted to say what's the exact opposite of social distancing, it's the Boston Marathon Expo. So it's going to be interesting to see. The other piece of information to think about is, because all of the spring marathons have to move to the fall this year, it's an amazing schedule. The Chicago Marathon is the day before the Boston Marathon. So you can't run Chicago. Well, some people, I was having breakfast this morning with some others, there are going to be some people, they're going to fly to Chicago. They're going to run the Chicago Marathon. They're going to get on an airplane. They're going to fly to Boston, and they're going to run the Boston Marathon the next day. There's going to be some people. Now, I don't think you're going to do it. I'm not going to do it, but there's going to be some people. But it's, for most people, especially the elite runners, it's Chicago or Boston. It's not both. New York is going to be a month later. A couple of the big European marathons are going to be like a week earlier. It's going to be this incredible jammed schedule. I also hadn't thought about this till somebody pointed out. It doesn't affect you or I, but Columbus Day traditionally is a very big day for another road race in Boston. What used to be called the Tufts 10K, which is now the Reebok 10K for women, is a Columbus Day race. Well, I'm not sure you're going to have two major road races in Boston on the same day. Something is going to give. And so that's going to be an interesting thing to sort out. So, but let's just hope. I posted, and that's exactly what I posted on Facebook when they made the announcement, Columbus Day. All I did was put the words "Let's hope" with a link to the news that the Boston Marathon is going to be Columbus Day.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. It's nice to kind of have it out there. Lots more details to be figured out, but yeah.
Right. And by the way, I just assumed you're not going to run Chicago on Sunday and Boston on Monday. I'll let you.
That's a fair assumption. I'm not all there, but I'm not that crazy. But I do know I'm going to run Berlin in Boston. So I don't know. It's because that's one of those European marathons that is in close proximity.
Right.
So.
Right. I think that's the one that's going to be a week ahead. But I guarantee you there will be some people who will just so they can say they did it. It might take them 5 hours in Boston on the second day, but they're going to do both Chicago and Boston.
Yeah, there'll be a new T-shirt for that challenge, I suppose. So.
Well, I was also joking, maybe the Boston Marathon wants to give a prize to the fastest combined time of the 2 days.
I don't know if we want to encourage this, Andy.
I know. I know the Boston Athletic Association wouldn't encourage it. So,
all right. Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks for talking about that a little bit. And you're always so generous to the running community. You're there for us, kind of calling out names and all of that. But I know you're a big runner as well, and it sounds like you've got a little momentum, and the knee's been feeling better.
Well, right. I'm not a kid anymore. To be honest, I'm 66 years old. I started running in the early 90s, so my best running days and my best memories are behind me. The interesting thing, we've all learned to do without in 2020. For those of us fortunate enough not to have to suffer any tragedy or severe hardship, and we unfortunately know that this pandemic created horrible tragedy and horrible hardship for a lot of people. For the rest of us, like you and I, we were just very fortunate, and we should be counting our lucky stars. And we learned to do without. And sometimes when you learn to do without, you do the best you can. And so for me, in a normal year, my road race schedule would be 85 races, along with a full-time job Monday through Friday. So I was I either didn't have the time or was just too tired to run. This past year, I spent more time running than I have in years. And so I'm happy about that. A lot slower, like I said, I'm not a kid anymore than I used to, but I'm just able to get out there and enjoy the sport, which I have since 1991.
That's awesome. That's a great run. What would you say is your most proudest moment as a runner? And you can go back to the early days of your running career, take it wherever you want.
Well, of course, I have to go back to the proudest days. When I first started running in the early 90s, 5-mile road races were a little more popular than they are now. And I thought breaking the 7-minute barrier for any road race was really cool. So my first year running in 1991, I ran both a 5K and a 4-miler at a sub 7-minute per mile pace. But my holy grail, if you would, was could I break 35 minutes in a 5-miler? And the first year, 91, I did not do that. But October 1992, we were talking about that Reebok 10K, which for years was the Tufts 10K. Well, it started out as what was known as the Bonnie Bell 10K. So these guys decided to have some fun, and the day before in Haverhill called it the Bobby Bell 5-miler for men only. And so in October 1992, I went down there and I ran 34:40, the first time I had broken 35 minutes for 5 miles. You would have thought I won the gold medal in the Olympics. I thought that I was on top of the world, and I thought, and I know there are a lot of people a lot faster than me, but I thought that if you could run 5 miles at a sub 7-minute per mile pace, that was really something special.
And it is.
So,
let it do that, no matter who you are.
Right.
Work and train.
Yeah. Right. Now, the funny thing is, so back then, I used to help out at this Tufts 10K race, and I'm telling you, the next day, I tried to contain myself. I'm at this road race. I'm thinking I'm the greatest runner in the world. I'm nowhere near that. But I just remember, I felt on top of the world with my running for a couple of days.
Great story. I love that. It's and we still have guys like Dave Ritchie out there that we can look to for, maybe we can get back and hammer these,
Well, I'm way overweight. I'm 20. It's well over 25 years later. I have much more modest goals with my running, so that won't happen. And here's the funny thing about that. So, the race director is a guy for that race was a guy who became very well known in the Merrimack Valley area with the Winter Circle Club and some of those other clubs by the name of Dave LeBrode. And when I got to know him later, I told him, well, that was my greatest moment as a runner. And every year I would see him at the Yankee Homecoming 10-miler in Newburyport, and I'd say, this tells you how I'm not getting much faster as a runner. That's still my greatest moment. 5 years ago, it was my greatest moment. It's still my greatest moment, which means I'm not doing much in the last 5 years. Dave, we've always, he and I always had a good laugh about it.
Well, it sounds like you ran more in 2020 than you did in 2019. So that alone is like a great goal and just a testament to kind of keeping after it year after year. So that's awesome. So
yeah, very, very happy about that.
Yeah. So one question I have, obviously I see you at all the great races. Do you have a personal favorite race to announce? And if so, why? Is there one that kind of stands out? I mean, obviously the Boston Marathon stuff is probably, that's a huge honor to be included in that, but maybe
No, I will tell you, and every time, because I've had the honor of being at the Boston Marathon, I've had the honor of being a lot of other great races. So people must think that, it's a hard decision, but I don't hesitate with this answer. It's the Mount Washington Road Race, because here in New Hampshire, my home state, the word prestige is a word that you can't necessarily define specifically. It's just like, you have prestige or you don't. Mm-hmm. And on the American running scene, no New Hampshire road race has the prestige of the Mount Washington Road Race. It's been a national championship. We've had world champions. That race will get publicity on the national running scene, unlike any other New Hampshire road race. Yep. So for me to be the announcer at this race is unlike anything else. Then you throw in the history, the tradition, the uniqueness of the race. If you've ever run the race, Matt, it can be hit or miss with the weather. You get on, you cross the finish line as a runner, or for me to stand at the finish line on those days when it's comfortable at the summit and there's not a cloud in the sky, and I just stand there and I'm looking 50 miles, across the vista. There's nothing like it. And I've been working that race well over 20 years. I started working that race, I think it was in 1997. I never get used to being at that finish line with that vista, and on a clear day, as we're driving up the mountain, somebody will say, we can see Canada today, or we can see the Atlantic Ocean today. I mean, so there's nothing like it between the location, the finish line, the history, the tradition, its place on the national running scene. There's nothing like the Mount Washington Road Race. It's always my favorite race of the year. Now, speaking of which, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a moment to talk about their plans for this year, because I don't know if people know that. It's their plans this year are a 2-day event. They on their website, they've said the women on Saturday, the men on Sunday. They're going to put in social distancing protocols. It will not appear. It will not be. You've run it, right?
I haven't. I'm feeling hopelessly insecure that I haven't.
Okay. Oh, I'm surprised. I did not realize that.
Providing cover for me. I haven't won the lottery, so.
Well, this year, a lot of people deferred from 2020 to this year. They're not having a lottery. They've got some spots open. That's first come, first serve. That they're going to, I believe, you'd have to go on the website. Just do a Google search, Mount Washington Road Racer. Go to Mount Washington Auto Road and click on the link to the race. And so they're going to have a procedure that they're going to allow about, I think, 200 or so people, first come, first serve. So there won't be a lottery. It won't be the same. Obviously, that's 2020, 2021, until things get back to normal. But they couldn't hold the race in 2020. They're going to try to do it in 2021.
Wow. Well, before I post this video, I'll go and try to register because I don't want that information to get up.
Right.
In the first line. Cool. Well, awesome, Andy. I've taken up a lot of your time. Before we jump off, you know that we're doing this Winter Warriors thing for the Chase Home for Children. Basically, they're helping us to provide some meaning to our running all these miles. It's a very worthy cause. Any thoughts on the charity and
Well, it's indescribable. Any charity that for decades has served the youth of the Seacoast, they're doing the Lord's work, as they say. They're just doing incredible work, and they deserve a lot of credit. And anything that we can do to support them is a worthy cause. Look, we know that there's a lot of worthy causes, but these times, especially when people are struggling, we need to protect the children of our community, and we need to do the best we can to serve the children of our community, and the Chase Home is doing that. So there's nothing like it, as you know, when you have a cause that you're running for. Every time you go out there and run, I think it's a very powerful feeling, unlike any other typical training run. So I give you and your teammates a lot of credit, and I really hope in these next couple of days that people can see it in their hearts to help you out, and not just help you out and support you, but more importantly, support the Chase Home.
Thank you for saying that. Very well put. Yeah, we've had some bananas runs. Like one of the guys on the team, Wojciech Ripa, he's on there too. He ran a marathon this morning, 2:43 solo unassisted. Chris Ritchie ran one last week, low 250s, which I think he was going kind of easy for him. But there have been lots of feats of strength, and tomorrow there may be a 50K in the books for some of the team members. So people are not
okay.
So we're trying to inspire people and compel people to give to the cause if they can. As you mentioned, there's so much need out there. There's so many charity organizations, and they're all very deserving. But hopefully, if folks are in a position to support this cause, they will. So thank you again so much for doing this. It's very generous of you to donate your time this way, and it's awesome to see you. Yeah, it's like I feel like I didn't see enough of you in 2020, and
I know we didn't see it, and I know every time you and I see each other at a road race, I've got work to do. You got a race to run. Otherwise, we would spend the whole day talking about the sport of running because we both love it so much.
Love it. So, all right. Well, thank you again, Andy. Again, Keep doing what you do, and thank you for being you. And we'll talk to you soon.
It's very nice. Always a pleasure, Matt.